Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Extra Credits. I am Nick, and joining me is Creature of the Night, Castor the Gravedigger. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, my lovely ducky. How are you today?
Good. How are the graves?
They're still being dug.
All right. Well, obvious joke is obvious, and I promise that will not be the last time I make that very stupid joke. So,
I've heard.
let's just
Yeah,
you've heard them all. You've heard all the obvious jokes.
Yeah.
But let's just jump right into the topic. So, this week, by the way, you're the one who brought up this topic, so I want to give you credit for that. We're talking about retro game collecting. And by that, I figured this would kind of be like a primer where we both talk about, like, for those who want to get into the hobby, but like don't know anything, this is basically your guide. And basically there's going to be three kind of main avenues in which you kind of pursue this, and we're going to tackle each avenue individually. So there is emulation, obviously, that's one avenue. There is buying the actual games themselves. And, if within there'll be subtopics like, do you mod your hardware? Do you use clone hardware? And then there also is the EverDrive flashcard avenue, which we'll kind of save that for last because that's a good one. So let's talk about something that's more in Caster's to me. Let's talk about physical cart collecting. So Caster, you want to jump off that one?
Yeah. So basically, if you're gonna do actual hardware and actual software, first off, I would say do your research, because usually you already have a console that you have in mind that you want to collect for. But if you don't know what to collect for, do your research and figure out like what is a good console to collect for. Like for instance, NES, you can get NES games, very cheap, as opposed to like say something, like I'm going to collect for the Neo Geo or the Sega Saturn or something. A lot of those,
Neo, like I'd say the holy trinity of like rich man collector systems are Neo Geo, Sega Saturn, and TurboGrafx 16.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, good luck. I'd love to have a TurboGrafx 16, but the console themselves are just ridiculously priced. So it's just like, yeah, I'm not worried about it. But yeah, like your Sega Genesis, your NES. Usually, what you're going to collect is what you played with, when you were younger.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of younger people now who have never experienced these consoles who are trying to get into them. So that's another, another niche you gotta worry about.
Yeah, I would also say, to add on to that, another factor in terms of like guides what people want is people prefer genres. Like different consoles do have preference of different. Like let's say you're an RPG fan. If you're an RPG fan and you want to get early '90s console, you're probably going to get a Super Nintendo over Sega Genesis because
exactly, yeah.
while the Sega Genesis does have some RPGs and some dang good ones, the SNES just has a wider variety, better quality, and also has Chrono Trigger. So that thing as well. I'm like well, let's say you're more of a fan of like the action titles, so then you get a Sega Genesis because like the Sega Genesis has really great action titles.
Yeah, well, it was more sold as like an arcade at home. So so if you like arcadey kind of games, so that's right up your alley. But yeah, and if you want to collect for both, that's fine. It's just you just got to know what you're getting into. And for some people,
go ahead. Also, if you want a really cheap console to collect for, I highly recommend the Atari 2600. The rare games can get like insanely expensive, stuff like Air Raid and whatnot. But like most of the games, you can get like an entire box of them for like $1. I mean, I'm being a little bit over dramatic here, but that's not
Yeah.
far off.
Yeah, but like but you know, like if you know, if you got to figure out like what you want to, you know, collect for,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, it can get expensive, you know. That's why, like, for instance, like I would try to probably, you know, if that's the thing too, is like you're gonna have to budget. Like any hobby that requires money, you're going to have to like set a budget.
Yeah.
So here's the thing: it's like, do you want to collect? Does complete in box matter to you? That's the thing. And here's another thing too: are you collecting for the passion of collecting? Are you collecting because you want to play the stuff, um, or or do you collect because this is like the beanie baby craze, and you know I got to have these expensive,
Well,
you know, games.
the funny thing about that is, like we're going by like the speculation. That time has passed. Like, video games have already had like their shoot to the moon. Now they're on the downward trend again. So if you're in for that, you're kind of you missed your boat on that.
Yeah. So as I'm saying, like some people like that's the thing is like they want to buy, you know, complete in box and then you know have it graded and everything and then wait 30 years because that's going to be my kid's college fund, you know. um eh, I mean, to me collecting because as an investment is not really something that appeals to me. Just collecting because you want to play the stuff and you have a passion for it, to me is the better way to go.
For
um
me, the way that I like to look at it is I collect for the passion, and 30 years later, if this stuff becomes insanely valuable, then yay, it's valuable.
yeah,
My
yeah,
stuff, you know, like it's
yeah,
a
exactly,
bonus. Like I view it as a bonus.
yeah,
So another thing I wanted to mention is, some people like to collect complete sets of a console's library, and if you're strictly trying to do that, I would recommend looking at the N64 library, because the N64 US library is about 250 ish games. So if you want to do a complete set, that would be a good place to start.
yeah. um you know, but you know, that's the thing is like, you know, hit up, you know, your local garage sales, hit up you know, flea markets and stuff like that, because a lot of times you can find really good deals. You know, eBay
Oh,
not always the
it's not as good as it was like 10 years ago. Oh man, I was garage selling as early as 2013, 2014. Back then, you could just it was just oh wow, it was all over the place. But now it is really like the deals are still out there. Like you can still go to a garage sale and find like the insanely good deal, but they're not as common as they were before.
no, they're not, because people have gotten wise. You know, but
Everyone's got a cell phone in their hands and they can look stuff up, you know.
exactly, that's why I don't go to a pawn shop because they're not you're not going to get a deal.
I don't
They
know. I've been to a couple pawn shops where I've gotten some deals where like they have video games, they don't care.
yeah, I guess it just depends on which one you go to, because I've seen
But
some
that's kind of
like,
I will admit it's an exception rather than
yeah,
a rule. So
yeah, but yeah, once you decide, you know, what you wanted to collect for, um you know, you got to go out and get yourself a console. And that, you know, to me it's like, do you want the original console, or like what you said before, you like a clone console? That's another thing to consider, you
hmm
know, because sometimes these older consoles, they may need maintenance.
hmm
Whereas these like new clone ones, you know, like you can get something from Analog, that might be the better way to go for you, because it's like, because like I know like Analog has like, they have like a clone Genesis and a clone NES. And
the Mega, I think it's like the
yeah,
Mega NT.
yeah, I can't remember the names are, but yeah, but yeah, you can get that, and they automatically, you know, you can hook them up to an HD TV, and there you go. There's no muss, no fuss, you know.
Yeah, because like with the retro consoles, if you want to use them depending on the console itself. But like the older you go, you're gonna have to mod it if you want a good picture. Now stuff like the Dreamcast, all you need is like a VGA box and you're good to go.
Yeah.
If you
And
and then stuff like stuff like a PS2, you just need to grab a component cable, and then like that generation is a lot easier than like a Super Nintendo where you gotta literally go into the guts. Now Caster is someone who's well versed in video game modding, so kind of giving us an idea how that goes.
well, that's the thing too. It's like I believe that I'm a strong believer in that if you're going to get into retro gaming, that entails like getting actual original stuff. I would suggest that you learn your way around a soldering iron. Now you don't have to be, professional grade quality. I have a $20 soldering iron that I've been using on my channel for like 2 or 3 years, you know, and I've been doing all my mods with it. You don't need a huge setup or anything. You just, decent-ish skills, because there will be some maintenance that you might need to do. Like for instance, I know a common ailment with the Sega Genesis is that the power and uh, the output jack, sometimes they get busted. Sometimes they break and you might have to resolder the connection. If you have like Game Boy games or anything that has a battery backup save, you may need to change that.
Yeah, those are a big thing for the Pokemon games.
Exactly. Like knowing your
where
way soldering iron, I think is going to help you out. Now, when
I
it
would
comes,
say barring that, like if you can't solder because like I got like hand tremors, so like that doesn't really work for me.
yeah,
It's important to have a guy who knows how to do it. So if you can't do it yourself, find someone who can.
wink, wink. But but yeah, and that's the thing is like look around because there are people who do this professionally, and there's some people,
Mm-hmm.
um, they charge good prices. Um, but like if you want to like mod a console, that's a whole nother beast that we got to talk about. Uh,
Yeah.
but like that is something that you might have to, consider. Now some
What
people
are some common mods for these different consoles?
a lot of common mods are like for like handhelds, you have like, screen mods and stuff like that. There's mods like for the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo, you have the RGB bypass, which like it helps out the sound
Mm-hmm.
and video quality, things like that. Um, you even have like, and this code goes into like emulation a little bit. Well, not really emulation, but um, where you have like uh, the disk drive replacers, where you can like say for like I think they have it for PlayStation, they have it for GameCube, they have it
They have a
for
Dreamcast.
Dreamcast, they have it for Sega Saturn, and I believe they have it for the Sega CD, is where you replace the entire like spindle with a SD card drive, and so you play your
Yeah,
game. But
that's
they're all
not emulation. It's
they're actually
essentially a flash card. It's essentially a flash card.
flash card, but you can put actual ROMs on it. It doesn't have to be
Mm-hmm.
emulation. It's still not
Yeah,
really emulation because it's still the
that
same software.
that's why I'm
Uh,
calling it akin to a flash card, because the flash card is not emulation either. It's just it's a multi card basically.
yeah, and you can do that, it's saves on your hardware because your hardware doesn't have any moving parts at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you can have your entire game library saved to it, and you don't have to worry about none of that stuff. Um, that's
Yeah,
that's
that's actually a perfect segue into our next topic of like the flash cards and that kind of stuff.
mhm.
So for a lot of people, um, buying the games themselves can be rather expensive. Like the consoles, while they are pricey, are still within a reasonable range. Like a Super Nintendo is like $70. Like, yeah, that's expensive, but for Super, like if you just get a Super Nintendo, that's not too bad. Like the console itself is obtainable, even like a Saturn or whatever. Like these consoles are obtainable. The problem is the games. because like your average Sega Saturn game is at least $50 to $70, if not a lot more. Super Nintendo games maybe $40 to $80. I'm going on averages here. So,
Yeah.
Like what a lot of people do is if they want to play the game on the actual hardware, but either don't want to or can't afford to buy the games, is they go the flash cart route. So, what they do here is there's just stuff like the EverDrives or like there's different ones. Like EverDrive is kind of like the big name ones. And it's like what you said with the optical drive, which those are a form of flash cart, by the way. So you're kind of doing a really good segue. So thank you. Where you put the ROMs onto it like an SD card, you put it on there, and then you just play it on as a normal thing. It is not in any way emulation. And the other benefit to these is not just ROMs, but you also can play like both fan translations and ROM hacks on the actual console. Like there is a really great N64 ROM hacking scene, and I would actually really love to just get N64 and like play some of these like ROM hacks on an actual N64. Like that would be so friggin' cool.
Well, it's kind of funny that you brought up like fan translations and stuff. I don't know if you up to date on Sega Lord X. Did you watch his newest video?
I haven't. Know what's it about.
Okay, so he talks about this new hardware. It's oh, I can't remember what the name of the thing is, but it's you can go to his website or go to his channel, and you can, this is for everybody. You can go to the channel and check out his new video. But basically, it's something like an EverDrive, but it's what it does is it's for the Sega Genesis, and what it does is it completely changes the audio for your games. So, like for instance, you can get fan remixes for different tracks. Or for one thing I thought was pretty cool was uh he was talking about like you can play Super Street Fighter on the Genesis, and it has the I think the Neo Geo soundtrack to it, or the PC Engine soundtrack to it. So it's like you get like basically Sega CD quality music and tracks on like your regular Genesis games.
Okay, I demand to play Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 with the immortal song. Mortal Kombat.
Well, well, he had Mortal Kombat on there, and they have like you can play Mortal Kombat with the actual arcade soundtrack.
Ooh.
So you get so it completely changes how you play these games. And I was like, holy crap, I gotta maybe try to get into this. Because they had
I know I've seen similar things like I've like there's like ROM hacks for like Legend of Zelda, like Link to the Past to Super Nintendo that replaces the audio with like full orchestrated stuff, and it's really amazing.
Or they had the Ghostbusters game for the Genesis. They had the actual movie.
Ghostbusters.
Yeah, they had the actual movie soundtrack.
Oh.
Which I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, so I just wanted to kind of like touch on that real quick because that's something that I just seen where like you can play a whole ton of Genesis games with like better music basically.
Okay, now there's a ROM hack that I need to make because one of my favorite Sega Genesis games is Mighty Morphin Pioneers the movie, like the beat 'em up, and because they use like the actual like songs from the show. And so the composer Ron Wassman, he did like like a redux thing where like they got a little more rockin', and like I just want to replace like the songs in the game with those versions now. Like, oh my god,
that's exactly what this thing does. Yeah, it replaces the music in it. And it's flipping awesome. Because it's like you're playing a Sega CD version where it has like better music.
Oh my god, like that actually might be my first ROM hack.
But anyways, yeah. So back to like flashcards.
But yeah, so like because there were a lot of games that didn't come out. This is bugging me. All right, cool, we're good. So there were a lot of games that didn't come out in the U.S. We're starting to see some of them come out now. Like Live a Live has come out. That's been fan translated for 20 years. So like a lot of people know that game really well. Trials of Mana, we know a Secret Densetsu 2, Secret of Mana 2. That came out, that was cool. Also, like a quick aside, I like that Square released the original version of Trials of Mana as part of the Secret of Mana collection, and then did the remake. That was nice. Like, I'll give them props for that.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, there's a lot of games. Like, one game that I've really been always wanting to try is like the Wonder Project, which is a game for Super Nintendo where it's kind of like a pet simulator where like you have like this robotic child you got to take care of.
Mm-hmm.
I always remember seeing previews for it. I know it's fan translated. I need to check it out.
Yeah. But yeah, so like the for a lot of people, getting back to like retro collecting, like or having a setup really, for some people, everything we've said is a moot point because some people can just be happy with buying an old CRT off the side of the road and hooking everything up to that, and that may be a route you can go to also.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's actually kind of really important because there is a large portion of the retro scene that like this, like I have a Sony Triniton in my storage area right now that's just been sitting there for 5 years, and I've been holding on to it because it's a Sony Triniton early 2000s CRT that can do 480p that I've been holding on to because those are just going to get harder and harder to find, and it's a Sony Triniton, like it's like the good one, so it's like I'm not getting rid of that. Even if when I pull it out, I have to get it repaired. That would still be a lot cheaper than having to buy a new one.
Yeah, and see that may be the route some people might want to go because some people don't really care about all the bells and whistles, and they just like, hey, I just want to play the game on a big ass TV, and that may
to be honest,
go to.
To be honest, there is an argument to be made that playing on CRT is superior to HD because the thing is, like the fuzziness of CRTs was actually a factor in game development. Like that's why, like if you ever hook up like your Super Nintendo, just like the composite cables, or even component cables. I don't whatever. Then you hook it up to your HD TV. You're like, whoa! I don't remember it looking this bad. Here's the problem: you didn't remember it looking this bad because like the pixels actually did a bit of a blurring effect, and then so the colors actually matched a little bit better. Like that's why oftentimes you see people put on like scanline filters, CRT filters, or just some sort of filter in order to get that look. Like I have to do this. Like, see how much they have to do to match our power.
Yeah.
Oh dear God! I need to make that meme. I need to.
How much they do to mimic our power.
Yeah, like oh my God, I'm totally making that meme after we're done with there. So,
but see, like for me though, I do definitely go down the more expensive route, which is like modding, and all this other stuff to get HD quality because for me, I cannot stand composite. I hate composite. Some people like it, some people enjoy it. It's not for me. For me, it's like a lot of these consoles were made not for composite, like the Super Nintendo and the Genesis output RGB, and that's what I want to play in. A lot of the problem, a lot of the problem was, okay, I'll say a lot of the problem was here in America, they decided, fuck it, it's going to be composite, and for a lot of people, they went from composite to HDMI, and but like over in like Europe, they've had RGB fucking forever. They even have RGB TVs.
Yeah, like we didn't start to get like 480p didn't become common until the early 2000s. Like when you got started getting the ED TVs of the early 2000s, which by the way, that's what my Sony Triniton is, an ED TV, and like enhanced definition where it goes up to 480p. And the other thing is, do you ever mess with S video? Like like I would say like that's what I always used to go for when I was doing my retro collecting was I always went for S video because like S video is a lot more of a common connection and it produces a much better signal, and you don't have to mod your consoles. You just gotta get like the proper cables, and they're a lot easier to come by. So I always went the S-Video route, in my opinion. Like that was kind of like the best. Like if you didn't want to mod your consoles, but you wanted like the best picture possible, I would S-Video.
Yeah, that's definitely a definite route to go to. Also, I mean, we did have some options, but for most part, here in America, it was composite only.
Yeah,
for most.
like when you said like going from composite to HDMI, like I'm an old head myself, like I remember 90s and 2000s, like I had barely heard of like I don't even think I first heard of Component until like 2003.
Yeah.
Like everyone I knew like hooked up their PS2s using composite. And like even in like the early PS3 and 360 days, I still knew people who hooked up their Xbox 360s with composite. Like I specifically remember I was going to trade school at the time. I remember walking into a friend's room. He was playing GTA 4 on his 360 with like a tiny little CRT TV using composite. My God, like, oh my God, that's an image.
And that was me. I did not get my first HD TV. I got in 2010. It was my very first one, and I played my 360 on composite on a big ass CRT until then. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to switch up to HDMI. And when I switched up to HDMI, it was almost like someone had put glasses on a blind child.
Yeah.
I could not comprehend what I was seeing. I was like, this is so fucking gorgeous.
Yeah, and then everything wanted to be HDMI, and that's kind of really where like console modding took off. Really was in like because HDMI really didn't become the standard. I would say until like 2008, 2009. That's when everyone really switched over. Because I think like you got to remember HD TVs were really expensive up until like 2008, 2009. That's when the prices really started to come down. Because like
why I got mine in 20.
Yeah, that is when like most people switched over HDH to HD TVs was around 2010 because in like the late 2000s your average like plasma TV like those TVs or like LCD, well, that was your two options back in the late 2000s. Like you either had LCD or plasma. Like there was no OLED, there was no any of this stuff. And your average like TV was like $800 to $1,000. And then, yeah, Blu-ray existed, but like I remember in 2005 looking at my Best Buy ads, and they're advertising Blu-ray players for $1,000.
Yep.
Like that's why DVDs, like they're still around, but like that's why DVDs were like mainstream, really up until the 2010s, because like Blu-ray players are just so expensive.
Exactly. I do also want to talk about ways that you can like different options to like I guess to budget for your retro collecting. So like so this is something that I do, and so this is coming from my experience. So some people look at my collection and go, "Damn, Caster, how do you get so much stuff?" Well, the thing is, a lot of times it's time, and it's looking at trying to find the best deals online as possible. But also something I do is, and this is maybe an option for some people, is there are a lot of different apps and stuff that let you pay for stuff in like payments of fours.
I'd be wary of that, but like unless you can repay it, but it is a good option.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like, well, it's kind of like with a credit card. If you know you got the money, don't use it unless you know you can pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, for instance, like sometimes I'll use PayPal, and they have like a pay in 4 method, where it just comes out automatically, out of your bank account or whatever. So sometimes I'll do that. Like, so say if like, wow, that's $100 game. I'd really like to play that, or I'd really like to own that. And it's like, well, I can afford $25, every 2 weeks. I can do that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that may be an option for some people.
Yeah.
You know, instead, but you know, I'm just saying, like, you know, that could be an option for some people. I know it works for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I always try to like not abuse that. So it's like, okay, you know, I pay, you know, I pay this thing off, and then I'll go after my next thing if I, you know, later
Yeah.
on. I don't try to have like 4 or 5 things that I'm paying 4 payments on, you know, because that kind of defeats the purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So you just try to like, basically, I would say, make a plan of what you want to get, and then figure out how you're going to get it. Like, to just go in willy nilly and say, "Oh, I want that game," or "I want this game," or "I want this game." I'd say make a do your research and figure out what kind of games you're looking for, and what you got to do to get to them.
Yeah. And also another thing is like a really good place to look if you want like cheap games is Facebook. Both Facebook Marketplace is a really good place. Then
Yeah.
also like there's Facebook groups for video games, like not just in general, but also I'm willing to bet your local area has a video game Facebook group. Like honestly, like my local area, there's at least 4 or 5 different like local area like video game training groups, and those are a place to get really like decent deals. Like Craigslist, they can pay some marketplace. eBay, you're gonna pay like quote unquote full price. Um, your local game stores, they're usually like if they're good, they're at least doing like full price kind of stuff. But like in terms of deals, Facebook Marketplace, Facebook groups are a good one. And then like any other place, like there's a site called Cheap Ass Gamer. That's also a really good resource if you're looking for. Well, that's mostly for newer games. But they also have a marketplace where they like the people there try to get things for as cheap as possible. So
Mhm.
I remember selling some stuff on that site back in the day. So
Well, it's funny you bring up Facebook because like that's how a lot of the other stuff I get from Facebook. Sometimes I do find deals on Facebook Marketplace. But like I'm actually part of a bunch of different gaming groups on Facebook, and they're
mm-hmm.
usually like people who buy and sell and trade, and a lot of times you can get a lot of good deals for that. Um, Usually these groups are invite only, so you usually don't have to worry about an asshole trying to rip you off. Um, but like specifically, I'm part of different groups that do something called waffles, but basically they're raffles. So the way it
But with
works,
waffles,
yeah, they're called waffles. Yeah. So basically, what it is like you'll have a guy who wants to sell a game. Like, say he wants to sell Twilight Princess, right?
mm-hmm.
Okay, it goes for $100. So what he'll do is he'll say, "Okay, guys, we're gonna have a raffle spin, and we're gonna do there's 10 slots at $10 a piece, and you can buy how many slots you ever want. So say you can buy 1 slot, you can buy 5 slots, it doesn't matter. So say you buy your slot, so what then you'll do is you'll pay them through PayPal or Cash App or whatever we have, and then once everyone's paid up, we usually go to a group chat in Facebook Messenger where we can all um, basically watch everything together, and then you'll have a guy who is not part of it. Usually it's an admin or something. You have somebody who's not part of this actual particular selling or this particular listing, and what they'll do is they're like an independent party, and what they'll do is they'll go to a website where they have like these wheel spinners, and they'll actually spin the wheel to put the people's names on them, and then uh, they'll spin the wheel, and whoever comes up first gets eliminated from the wheel. Then we
Hmm.
going until the last person is on the wheel, and whoever is last wins the whole shebang. So,
Hmm.
and sometimes you win good, sometimes you lose a million times in a row. It's gambling.
It is
Um,
100% gambling, but um, I mean,
but I've
honestly, it's for by the sounds of it, it sounds like a fairer form of gambling. It's better than going to the casino.
well, here's the thing: would you rather have a 1 in 10 chance to get $100 game? you know, that's
I've always said like don't gamble unless you can afford to lose. Like if you're going into this being like, hey, I might get Twilight Princess for $10 or I might waste $10. I'm okay with either one. Then sure, go ahead.
That I think that is the biggest thing you have to take away from retro gaming collecting is it has to be disposable cash.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you can't pay your bills, then I'm sorry, you're not retro collecting.
Yeah.
You know.
And for those who basically who either don't want to retro collect or don't have the funds, there also is the big E in the room.
Oh yeah.
So I do feel like we need to touch upon emulation here, which is kind of more my domain because like I used to be a big retro collector. I just got like I sold stuff off over the time, and honestly, just my desire is not really as much there anymore. So I'm more of an emulation guy
Well,
now.
there's a saying we have on these Facebook groups is you either die a collector or living long enough to be a reseller. So yeah.
Well, I died a collector. So
Yeah.
yeah, I died a collector and I was reborn an emulation guy. So like emulation is really interesting because just like basically the biggest benefit of emulation is options. Both in like how you play it and like the way you can present it. Because like emulation can be done on your computer, your phone. They make emulation consoles. You got the Raspberry Pi. You can mod a system like a PSP, an Xbox. Do emulation.
Yeah.
Hell, the Series S is a great emulation thing. They got these Chinese retro emulation handhelds, which I got one of them. I got a Mini Plus, which I've been loving. And yeah, they give you a lot of options, and but it does require like some computer knowledge here and there, but it's not too bad. And if you don't want to like pay the price, like for me, like the two options that I recommend are get a console and then get an EverDrive, or emulate, because just for me, if you just want to play the games, game prices have gotten way too expensive. If you're just simply playing games, if you're collecting, then whatever. But if you just want to play these retro games, I just can't in good conscience recommend buying a lot of these games on the used market. I'm sorry, like that's my opinion.
Well, I would say it is the price. I've noticed the prices are slightly coming down, and I think the big thing was like COVID a couple years
Mm-hmm.
ago. That's what
Oh my
really.
god, I hated that time because
Yeah.
all the collectors were like, "This is just the market correcting itself. These prices are never gonna go down. This is the new normal." Like I was just so infuriated because like I knew it was a bubble. Like it was very obvious it was a bubble. Like I get the market conditions for why it happened, but like the way the collectors were talking at the time was just pissing
Yeah.
me off,
I
honestly.
I think everything. I think the dust is starting to settle because I've noticed games are coming back down to like reasonable prices now. Not
Yeah, I've seen
everything,
it myself. Like
but
I've seen a lot of games. Like the rare and expensive games are still a bit ludicrous. They've gone
yeah,
down, but they're still pretty ludicrous. But like your anything like that's not a tier one game, like anything that's not like your Snatchers or the Earthbounds of the world, has kind of started to come down towards pre-pandemic levels slightly. Like they're a little bit more expensive. Like a $50 game before the pandemic that shot up to 100 is now going for like 60 to 70 now.
yeah, yeah. That's pretty much it. Specifically, Splatterhouse is one is a game that was like it was going for like $100 easy, and now it's kind of like dropped down to like it's getting down to like 70, $60. It's going back down
Yeah.
to what it used to be.
Uh, Actually, I'm gonna pull up price charting. Let's look up some trends. Because um, let's see here. All right, let me just share my screen because I always find this interesting. All right, Earthbound. Oh, um, the frick. There we go. What the? Okay. They added like new things. So, all right. So, Earthbound. Honestly, like it was always like a 300 game. Like that's actually like um it peaked at $400 in April 2022. That was its peak.
Yep. And I noticed where it started going up real high, and that's 2020.
Yep. So it hit like 290 in July 2022. Like 320 for a loose Earthbound. That is a little more reasonable. 400, 320, and it's going down. It's trending downward. So, yeah. Let's see here. I'm looking at tier 1 games right now. Okay. All right. Yeah, like oh my god, look at how
Jesus
much
Christ.
because Snatcher is a game where most people who buy it, they buy it to collect it. Like there are some games that are insulated. Like Earthbound is a game that people both buy to collect and they buy it to play it, but also Earthbound is a status symbol. So it's Snatcher, but not as much as Earthbound.
Yeah.
Look at it. Okay. All right, let's just look at the loose price. So, well, let's see here. Look at his peak. Dear God. Yeah, and then this is the game that I owned. All right, so let's see here. So I bought it, I think around 2014. So it's going for $300 complete box. I bought a loose copy. I bought a loose copy for about $200. So I got a bit of a deal then, and I eventually sold it for $300. So I actually made a little bit of money with that one.
Mm.
But yeah, like look at its peak. It was like 900 just for the loose one, and then like
That's ridiculous.
I mean, it's Panda Dragoon Saga, so like I'm not as I don't feel as bad, but yeah. This is one where it's like, okay, 700. It's risen up, but like I'm not too mad because this is a very rare game. Let's look at one that I currently own.
Real quick, I just got a notification from my own channel, a recommendation for one of my own videos.
Oh,
Thanks,
wow.
YouTube.
So
recommended Boneyard. I'm like, yeah, I know.
So this game's kind of been crashing a little bit because like, actually no, it's actually on the rise. Dear God.
Yeah.
So mine is complete. So like, yeah, like it's been shooting up, but it's crazy. It's actually going back up, which is weird. Yeah, this is probably the rarest game I own currently. Like I'm actually looking at it right now. It's right over there. But yeah, what game do you want me to look up so we can look at trends?
Well, I guess we can look up my most expensive game, which is Metal Storm for the NES.
Ooh.
I have a CIB.
Fancy. Holy shit. Like, let's see here. This let's look at CIB prices. Oh wow. Like it actually had a bit of a peak in 2016. And then oh god, look at that crash. Look at how much that thing just crashed and burned.
Yeah, it was really expensive at one point. And I was like, holy shit.
Here's the thing about retro game collecting is like you got to apply the 20-year rule. So like in 2016 was the height of NES collecting. Like that was the height. And people have kind of been moving on from the NES. Like obviously NES still has its diehards, but really most people care about either the PS it's really Super Nintendo, PS1, and PS2 generations. Like GameCube has been shooting up like crazy because you got to realize the people who grew up consoles in 20 years, they grew up being like, oh man, I have money now. I have time. I want to revisit my youth. I want to buy all the games that I couldn't have as a kid. Let's go out and buy that.
And that's pretty much my MO for why I collect. Because now I'm like, I'm an adult with money.
Yeah, and then for me, the systems that like I would buy for would be PlayStation, PSP, maybe some Super Nintendo, like that.
Yeah.
That would be my stuff. And for a lot of people, it's GameCube, like or DS, like it is insane how expensive this game gets.
But I would say like, and this is my advice right now is buy games for systems that were a few generations ago. Like for instance, right now people are talking about
PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 games are dirt friggin' cheap.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like right now, because like we talked about this the other day, where they were talking about how the 360 store is closing. You know, right now is the best time to go get your 360 games. I mean, you can go to.
I'd actually disagree on that, because now that the announcement is there, all the FOMO people have come out and they're gonna buy. It's the same thing when the 3DS eShop closed. Like you had games right before the eShop closed, were one price, and then after they announced the eShop closes, they shot up, because a lot of these games, the only way you can get them now is on physical cartridge.
Yeah. So like, my thing is like, go right now and go get like 360 games while they're cheap, because you can get them for $4, $6, $7 right now, especially at a secondhand store. Go get your 3DS games. Because when the Switch came out, I told everybody, I said, go get your 3DS games right now, because DS games are getting ridiculously fucking expensive.
I mean, like, look at what I have on screen now.
Yeah. Oh, I have Soul Silver and Heart
to
Gold.
To be fair, this was always an expensive game. Honestly, like 150 is like, I remember like when I bought it, it was like 100, 120. So this is not like, this is honestly just like regular old like inflation, like just regular. So this one is not ridiculous. Like this is just a natural rise. So like this is fine. This is like the market corrected itself. It's back down to like a more normal price, but like DS games are
especially Pokemon games are getting ridiculously priced. So Pokemon like Pokemon Platinum is ridiculous. It was $45 at one point, and then it shot up to like $150.
I remember I once bought like Pokemon Platinum off of someone, like complete in box for like $10-$20. Even that was a deal when I bought it. Like, yeah, just look at that. It's insane. Like, oh my god, look at that peak.
Yeah.
$200.
Yeah.
Okay,
exactly.
That was March of 2021. That was like the peak of the pandemic. So like, okay, I get it, but like, it's Pokemon Platinum. Do you know how many copies there are of this in the wild? Like,
yeah.
Dear God. I'm actually kind of curious now. It's regular old silver. Okay, this is making it really stupid. Okay, 45. Like that's Also, the other thing about retro collecting we didn't touch upon is, like it's perfectly normal to collect loose cartridge-based games. Like,
oh yes,
I would say the cartridge-based systems are based around loose prices. Like you actually pay a premium for complete, but when it comes to disc-based consoles, the price is really based around the complete version. Like you get a discount by buying the loose price. I know it's weird, but like once you kind of think about it, it actually makes a lot of sense.
Like I used to collect Genesis games and NES games complete in box, but not anymore because it's gotten way too expensive. So now I exclusively do loose, unless I can find a deal or something, But other than that, no. I would say go for loose. Now for discs, I would say you got to be careful because, like, I don't know if I'm a scratch phobe, so like But
I once owned this game. I bought it off a friend of mine once for like $15. That was probably one of my better deals.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is crazy. Look how much it just tanked in
yeah,
2020.
that's actually when I was saying that games were dropping. That's actually one of the ones I was thinking of.
Yeah, I
was
mean,
that
just
one.
look at all the charts we're doing. Like as you go into 2022, these games just like tank, and like you can tell there was a bubble because like games do not just drop this
Yeah.
much. Like that's how you know it was a bubble. If they just like tanked this much.
But I do want to say one thing before before we end. The number one rule above anything else is don't let anybody tell you how to enjoy your retro gaming. That's the biggest number one thing, because there are elitists in any hobby, and retro community has them too. Don't let somebody tell you, oh, your setup is shit, or oh, like how you play this is garbage. Do not let anybody bully you into doing anything you don't want. Like if you like playing on a CRT TV, go right ahead. I don't like it personally, but don't let me stop you. You know, because there are elitists out there who'll be like, well, you can only play it on a FrameMeister. Well, I'm sorry, asshole. I don't have $600.
Yeah, like that's the reason why I kind of got out of retro collecting, was like basically your worth in the community was determined by like what games you had. Like if you had Earthbound, if you had Snatcher, if you had this or that, then you could speak from authority and whatnot. And at the time, I had Panzer Dragoon Saga. So it's like, bitch, I'm one of you guys. Like I literally had like one of the gems. Like that, like ask any retro collector. They will tell you Panzer Dragoon Saga is like, I would say the trinity, the trinity of rare games is Panzer Dragoon Saga, Snatcher, Earthbound. Like that is like that Panzer Dragoon Saga is like that is up there with Earthbound. In fact, it's probably rarer than Earthbound. Actually, it's more valuable than Earthbound. Like it's actually a higher tier than Earthbound, but you know. And so like I just got so pissed off, I just sold the game because like I only bought Panzer Dragoon Saga because A, it was a good deal, and B, I bought it for the collecting. I only played it like once or twice. I had a Saturn, like I could play it.
Yeah.
It's just mostly just sat on the shelf. And like as I got older, I looked around and be like, you know, most of these games are just sitting on a shelf. Like a lot of the games I've never even popped into a system. And like, do I really need these games? You know, like some of them have sentimental value. You know, some of them I'm like, all right, well, if I sell this game, when I want to buy it again, will I want to buy it again? And if I do, how hard will it be? Like that's why I haven't gotten rid of Tomba 2, because I guarantee you I will want to buy it again. And that is actually legitimately a hard game to track down. Like that game is a little bit tricky to track down, especially complete box.
Yeah.
You know, something like Castle Symphony of the Night. You know, that game is expensive, but it's honestly relatively common. So like that one, it's just price. But yeah, like this one I got pulled up right now, Misadventure of Tronbon. This is mostly a collector's game, I'd say. And like, look at how hard it crashed. Like, it didn't crash as badly as some of them, but like, its peak was like 600.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
Yeah, I can't really speak if like the current price is fair or not, because I never really got into Tronbon. But yeah. Yeah, I want to look at Mega Man Legends too, because that's
another one that's pretty expensive. Yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of people buy it to play it, so that I think that's a better representation. Yeah. So 150, that's probably fair. Suikoden 2 for the PS1 is going to be going down in price soon, because you got the Suikoden 1 and 2 HD collection coming out. Because like I don't know if you remember, back in the early 2000s, Final Fantasy VII was a really rare game. Oh, like dear God, like look at how much this has fallen off.
Holy shit.
Yeah, bubble. But like Final Fantasy VII, back in like 2004, 2005, was a like $150 game.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
But as soon as the PlayStation store version came out, God, come on. I have to wade through all like. Yeah. All right, like, yeah, look at that.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's like you can just tell when the PlayStation Store version came out. Yeah, this is when they started tracking it. Like, just think about that. Went from
Damn.
130. Yeah, this was like before, and like, yeah. Also, another thing I like to do is this one. It's like let's see here. It's like you can just tell the moment Michael Jackson died. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, because he died like May 2009. Like, it's like, yeah, like it's just like, yeah. Like $60 for this game. That's kind of crazy. But yeah, the game just like, yeah, that's the other thing. Like, games kind of shoot up. Like, I remember Adventure, the game for Atari, that shot up in price after Ready Player One, because that game was featured heavily in Ready Player One, and like all the hipsters, they wanted Adventure for their shelves, for like their YouTube videos. So yeah, marketing conditions are really crazy. So you gotta be kind of use your head, be like, okay, it's the same thing like when they announced that Scarlet Witch is gonna be in the next Marvel movie, and then all of a sudden the first appearance of Scarlet Witch shoots up. Like, so you need to kind of be on your ball with some of these things. Like, be like, okay, X has happened. Like, for example, let's say Shaquille O'Neal dies, Shaq Fu is probably gonna shoot up in price.
Yeah.
Like and especially if it's like tragic, or something. Let's say Shaquille O'Neal dies in a car crash. Shaq Fu is going to go up in price.
I mean, that's just not in video games. That's just anything. Because I remember, like, when Elvis died, all of a sudden all that Elvis memorabilia just went up, and in price. So,
oh my God, you're old. You are old.
I know it, but anyways,
but yeah, let's wrap this thing up.
But yeah, so anyways, yeah, basically my thing is, like, if you want to retro collect, basically do your research. Definitely budget. Find out how you want to play your games and what are the best ways to do them, and most importantly, don't let anybody tell you how to do it. Like, don't let anybody like, you can get advice from people, but don't let anybody bully you and say, oh, well, if you're not a true gamer, if you do it this way or that way.
Yeah, screw the gatekeeping. Honestly, you are the one who, like, if you like doing a CRT and that one, or like, honestly, even if you're just hooking your Genesis directly up to your HD TV with composite cables, I don't recommend it. But if that's how you want to do it, have at it.
If that's how you got to get it, then yeah.
But like, there's no shame in, like, if that's how you do it, if that's how you play your games, then so be it. We don't recommend it, but if that's how you want to do it, or if that's the only way you do it, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm. And if this is for anybody watching, if you want any advice or anything, you can come to me on Twitter and ask me what I think, and I'll help you out.
Yeah, hit me up on Twitter as well. Yep. So this has been Nick from the Phoenix Press. Remember, I can only show you the door. You're the ones to walk through it. All right.